Yeah, I forgot I had to click a button to turn on sound. I was just about to do a whole AMA, no sound, but thank you guys. Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Today is March 27th, 2021. Um, and it has been a very long month. It has been a very long week. I am exhausted in every way possible, but I'm still here because I love you guys and I love doing these, and they're a lot of fun. Just a reason why I'm sometimes mute, I actually have to manually push the 48-volt button on the amplifier with my Linux computer. With my Windows computer, I don't. And so sometimes I forget that I have to push the button until you guys remind me. Okay. Well, we did marry this month. 10,000 plus assets have already been issued. A lot of them are NFTs and useless things, but good to see that people are experimenting and exploring. We had the Cardano update at the end of the month. We announced the tentative dates for Alonzo. We kind of walk through what the rollout is going to look like. I think it's right on target. We're feature complete in Q2, and then it's just a matter of making sure that everybody upgrades and is off to the horses. Uh, Tons of things going on with Catalyst. Hundreds of projects getting funded, lots of people doing interesting things. It's going to take me a while to read that whole list of everybody funded with Fund 3, excuse me, but I will. And an enormous amount of development work ongoing right now. The Plutus team is overloaded, and the Ledger Node team is overloaded. They're basically integrating everything together, and we've added a lot of extra resources, surge resources specifically to address and deal with integration problems, bugs, and concerns. A lot of other things that we're modifying and adding, and it's just moving along. Africa special, with any luck, we should be able to do that in April, but we'll see. Things are looking really positive right now. We're chugging away, moving along. I just signed a decision memo to start hiring in Ethiopia. We had a small scale office, and we're now turning that to a much larger office. We'll also start looking at Ethiopian universities to see which one we want to put a lab at. But not to be outdone, it's a Pan-African company, not just an Ethiopian company. So we're looking at other African nations, and in particular, Ghana is the next site of our class. However, the class will be Pan-African, meaning that people from all across Africa can apply and join and learn. And we're going to try to teach at least 2 or 3 classes per year throughout Africa to train developers. Now, we won't hire all those developers, but other people will. And my suspicion is that Catalyst will well more than saturate that pipeline with lots of good talent. About 1,000 plus people have already signed up for the Plutus Pioneers program. We just announced it. So poor Lars, he's going to have to find a way to train that many people to write Plutus code. So we'll see if he can do it. We'll give him as much support and love and grace as we can, but it's going to take a bit. But there is one thing that I would like to hang on a second. I have to block these Turkish flag guys. They come in my channels and just spam. There is one thing that I've noticed that has really started becoming a problem. Since we started surging, there's more notoriety and people are paying more attention to Cardano. And there's a lot of wonderful goodwill and positive comments, and people have said, wow, Cardano is great. We love it. They send me great thank you notes and, resumes and t-shirts and stickers. In fact, I got some of them right here. So this is some rats stickers for my rat steak pool. And that's really fun and reassuring. Unfortunately, Taoism, it tells you that there's a yin, there's a yang. So if you get a lot of positivity, you get a lot of negativity. And I spent quite a bit of time this week thinking about the negativity, thinking about why people are saying and doing the things that they're doing. It's not just internet trolls who are shit posting. They're real people, like with reputations and brands, who are saying things that are actually getting to a point where we could sue them for slander if we wanted to. And I'm asking myself, well, why would people throw away their reputation? Why would they lie? Why would they say these just outright horrible, false things? Why would they take it this far? What's the upside in doing something like that? Um, And I think the issue is that there was a narrative about me and about Cardano. And this came from some of the people who helped found Ethereum, and that stuck. And in those people's minds, Charles Hoskinson and everything he touches is just a vanity play of pathological lies, narcissism, and sociopathy. There is no Cardano. It doesn't exist. There is no IO Global. It's all one gargantuan scam for my ego. They just believe that. Now, when we were small, they said, "Oh, okay, well, we'll write it off." And then now they see Cardano surging, and it's getting to a point where there's a real possibility that Cardano could become the dominant cryptocurrency smart contract platform within the next 24 to 36 months. But if you live in a reality where all the things we've done don't exist, then in their mind, they're protecting the industry from BitConnect plus 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 plus, from OneCoin plus 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 plus. They have to tell everybody from the top of the towers that this tsunami scam is going to be an existential risk to everyone. And then you show them evidence to the contrary. You show them all these research papers, the code, the fact that we have proof of stake and Ethereum doesn't. No amount of evidence will convince people who have already drank that Kool-Aid. And so they're saying slanderous things. We don't have deals in Ethiopia. We don't have deals around the world. We don't do this or that, or Cardano doesn't exist, or there's never going to be smart contract. Every date is a lie. And even after we ship, it's not real. Proof of stake doesn't exist, whatever it might be. They believe it down to their bones, like a cult member believes the leader is going to save them and give them immortality or something like that. So I'm not sure what to do with that. I really am not, but it is exhausting. It's profoundly exhausting. I've noticed a big uptick in personal threats, death threats. I've noticed a big uptick in just relentless and brutal criticism. And if it was just directed towards me, it wouldn't be so problematic. As I said, I have a pretty thick skin these days. I don't really care what people think about me. My life is pretty good. But what happens is it's now being directed towards the agents of my company, my employees, my contractors, our associations and relationships. Some of our labs have been bombarded with this negativity. And scientists writing papers with us have been cold called and emailed saying, don't associate your brand and reputation with this obvious scam. They're just using you for your reputation. Meanwhile, they're having academic conversations about zero knowledge cryptography and multi-party computation. And we used to be able to laugh it off, but it's getting worse and worse. The other thing is that there are definitely some scams that are starting to brew inside the Cardano ecosystem. And we're getting to that point where predators come in and they try to prey upon the goodwill and passion of people. Now, our ecosystem is very different. Our ecosystem is very smart. And so I've begun setting up a group of people within my organization who do nothing but think about scams and software to help ameliorate scams. Now, this used to be things like giveaway scams. Those are obvious and everybody in the industry knows. But there have been press releases about a fund in particular and a project associated with it that have come to my attention. And upon further due diligence and digging, we legitimately have concerns. So what we're going to start doing is systematically looking into this. And then we're going to use this as a case study for how we as an ecosystem can come together and have kind of an antibody, an immune system that helps vet things that are said and done and scams that are proposed. And hopefully that'll help a little bit. Now, we can't stop all of it. No one can, but at least this gives people who have a law enforcement background or investigative background a place to volunteer and perhaps even work with funding to help target these things and call them out. So as our investigation concludes that particular fund, we'll make some announcements about it or share it with an investigative journalist to let that be the way of doxing it. But that's just a moment. And the problem is that because there are tens of billions of dollars and this is a big ecosystem with lots of people, many more will come. And we pride ourselves on this concept of self-governance. We pride ourselves on this concept of our ability to intervene and solve problems. And I'd like to believe that we can come together as a community and resolve these things. Now, for my part, I'm a little tired. I'm probably going to take a little bit of time off at some point after we're absolutely sure everything we pronounce for Alonso is good to go. And there's still just a little bit more of a push. And then I'll take a week or two off because, to be honest with you, there's just only so much mental abuse and emotional abuse and negativity you can absorb as a human being before you say, all right, I need some time off. Second, we've been going overtime now for 3.5 months, and we just keep adding. The problem is that Cardano's hot stuff and people want it. So I'm usually one of the guys involved in that commercial pipeline, and I'm trying to get it to a point where we have more people to augment and assist. But until that happens, and we're hiring rapidly, we're probably going to hire another 100 to 200 people. I'll just have to tank it out. That's why I got my couch back there and all the blessings and goodwills that you guys give me. And I'm quite excited to keep hammering away at it. And at some point, then I can take a nap. I'll take a week or two off. I'd love to travel again, especially given that we're about to make some very significant strategic investments. This year, we probably will invest around $15 to $30 million in research and development. It's our largest budgetary item for any single thing. And that gets me really excited because I get to open up lots of labs that do things that I never thought we'd have a chance to study, like complexity theory. And we can think about systems, and we can think about political science, and we can really scale up the economics and game theory side of our research portfolio. But then also organizational psychology, things about how to run a business operating system that's truly decentralized, and other things that have been a passion of mine. There's some side passions, like finally, I'm going to start subsidizing mathematical research. We're just about to give a grant to Jeremy Avogad over at Carnegie Mellon. He's a famous logician, and he's a big member of the lean space. And I'm very excited to start making sure that he can get back to his textbook Lean for Mathematicians. But we have big plans to invest heavily in lean and get that framework where it needs to go so that we can build up the formalization of mathematics in a programming language. And I think lean is the perfect language and the perfect project for that endeavor. And I believe Jeremy is the perfect professor to bootstrap and spearhead that work. Now, that's just the beginning. Over the course of my life, I'll probably put in tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in that effort alone, because it's unfinished business from a prior life of mine before I entered the cryptocurrency space. And I think it's something that would be a good legacy for mathematical research and for the next generation of math grad students that come and want to solve great problems. Mathematicians are getting too specialized, and they're starting to not know each other anymore or read each other's work. And it's about time we bring that back. That's an example of a passion project. Another passion project of mine is micro mechanization. Many of you know I'm a farmer and also a rancher. I'm finishing up buying a ranch up in Wyoming, but getting 400 bison with that, and that's going to be fun. But on the farm, I grow hay, and I have a John Deere tractor and a Massey Ferguson tractor, and they're horrendously expensive, and they're tremendously useful, this farm equipment, but there needs to be disruption, innovation there in the developing world if we're ever going to mechanize things. And so it'd be really cool if you could 3D print a lot of this stuff and you could manufacture it local. So one of the cool things about having a relationship with the University of Wyoming is that there's a big ag tech program there, and they think about these types of things. So I'm going to be visiting that university quite a bit. And that's another example of a passion side project that I'll be funding, is how do you build equipment that's very useful in rough and rugged locations, and you can locally manufacture it without a very sophisticated supply chain. Now, on the Africa side in particular, we finally got to a point where we can do more than just push through government relations. And as we start closing these foundational government deals, really, we need to start doing a pull model where we build consumer products. We were waiting for both Prism and for Cardano to reach a certain level of maturity, and also Catalyst to reach a certain level of maturity before that made sense. And we also wanted to approach that with a partner-driven process. So we have our relationship with ICE Addis, and we're just going to keep deepening that relationship and keep strengthening it and keep putting more money in, because they have tentacles into 25 different countries in Africa. They've been around for quite a bit of time. But above and beyond that, I think we're probably going to create a line item around the $10 to $20 million per year for strategic investments in infrastructure, training, and project development, commercial development, in a Pan-African sense. So this will be the second largest line item in our budget as we enter 2022. One of the reasons why we were a little resistant to doing that earlier was that COVID hit. And we were just about to start that tour. I was going to go to Uganda and Tanzania and many other places and meet lots of heads of state and begin that process. But then everything closed down. Unfortunately, because of policy decisions of the United States from this administration and prior administration and the European Union, there doesn't seem to be a strategy for how to vaccinate the developing world. So that first means coronavirus is here to stay permanently. Every year it'll come back with a new strain like the flu. And hopefully year by year we get a little bit more immune to it. And hopefully medicine evolves at a nice rapid pace. But this could have easily been solved with a buy one, get one free program. If every developed country that bought a vaccine, donated a vaccine to the developing world, there would be ample supply for everyone in Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, and other places. Then we could vaccinate the whole world and end this pandemic once and for all. It's not going to happen. So this is going to hit many nations in Africa particularly hard. And there's nothing I can do or no one can do to resolve it because this is the provenance of geopolitical policy and nation states, not entrepreneurs. So we'll do our best and I'll still go on a great tour. It'll be a little harder and it'll have to be the second half of this year. And that's okay. But we'll still make these foundational investments and be strategic and careful about them. We just wanted to make sure that we first got a collection of competency, regional credibility, and a lot of operators who exist in those jurisdictions and understand fact and fiction, understand timelines, can actually help us create realistic strategies, or else we end up doing the same thing that Bill Gates did with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where he dumped tens of billions of dollars and got suboptimal returns. You can spend all your money, no matter how rich you are, running around trying to save the world. That's not what we do. We try to find business structures that work for everybody, that are sustainable, and if they are going to stick around, they allow themselves to grow and propagate and make the world better for each person. Okay, now that's my update. Not too bad, almost 20 minutes of updates. Let's get to your questions, huh? Right here. Price obsession is a disease. ADA is one of the most stable because the community relax. I will comment on this. I have noticed an unhealthy obsession with price. Everybody comes to me as if I have magic levers I can pull to make the price go up, or I pull and somehow the price goes down. That's not how any of this works. These are markets. I don't know why the price does what it does, but it does. Second, I've noticed an unhealthy obsession with people asking us to try to manipulate the price of ADA, in particular through the process of burning tokens. Now, I don't know why people think there's some giant pile of ADA somewhere that is not distributed that I can just push a button and burn. It's not possible. All the ADA that is circulating belongs to people. Literally every ADA that you see on CoinMarketCap when it says total supply is assigned to a human being. So if you want to burn ADA, you actually have to go to one of those human beings and ask them to burn it. But yet I'm asked every single day over Twitter. It's kind of strange. Favorite Miyazaki movie? Spirited Away, probably, or My Neighbor Totoro. Thoughts on the Mina protocol, Ouroboros plus Snarks? They reached out to us and said they were going to be the first to implement Ouroboros Praus. That was back in 2018. They're still not in market with it. We were skeptical when we had a call with them. I remember Vasily Zikas was there, Agalos was there. I think Duncan may have been in that call as well. Everything that they've written is reasonable, although recursive snarks are still a deeply theoretical artifact. And there are great papers like Halo Infinite and others, but they also tell you very clearly that there's still a lot of unsettled theory in unsettled application. So I always get skeptical when the science is not completely settled about people who proclaim that they can create the ultimate blockchain for it. That said, they're doing the standard Silicon Valley thing. They've raised a lot of money. Naval Ravikant, I think, is one of their investors, and they've gotten a lot of buzz. And yeah, we can't argue with the value proposition. They're basically saying you can have full node security for 22 kilobytes forever, no matter how big the chain gets, how many transactions occur in the chain. That's a pretty remarkable value proposition. So we think a lot about this topic, and we're setting up a Snark lab at University of Edinburgh. And this is going to be one of the line items in that $15 to $30 million research agenda, probably in the $1 to $3 million, depending upon the graduate students, postdocs, and professors associated with it, and also the engineering side that's associated with it. And recursive snarks is one of the things that's in the research agenda. And given that Stanford is now writing about it, we're right at the right time. Dan Boneh kind of stands out and just waits a little bit. It comes in like a ninja, and right when it's getting good. You saw that with homomorphic encryption and a lot of other things. And so the fact that he's entered the space tells you that the next 24 months to 36 months, we're going to see a systematic series of breakthroughs on both engineering and also on theory. So I don't think anything they're doing is unreasonable. And I understand the team is doing a borrow instead of build strategy, which is why they like Ouroboros, the same for Polkadot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But having dealt with this technology ourselves, I will give a little bit of caution that be careful with timelines and proclamations. We're one of the few companies in the world that actually has implemented a snark. We created something called Sonics, and we implemented Rust. That exercise took us 18 months with a team of Rust engineers who were very good, doing nothing but that. So it is really hard to do this code well and implement it at a standard where it actually works. Hi, Charles. Is there going to be a public testnet for developers so that any dApp developer can get started? Yes, that's exactly what I announced. I thought people would be super excited. Unfortunately, we saw multiple articles right after the announcement that Goguen was delayed. And if I could ever say "go fuck yourself" in the loudest tone, I mean, that was a moment for it. We were so proud and happy. Everybody was incredibly excited, and then we just see that garbage. Yeah, it's coming in May. That's the whole point of the Pioneers testnet. It's public. You guys can use it to deploy your applications. I wish I could give you more time on that testnet because people legitimately need time to build up these things. So that's the point. That's the intention. How was the call with Novogratz? Novogratz reached out to me over Twitter. He said, "You'll talk to me on Monday." And I said, "Well, I'm a busy guy. Talk to my secretary and let's see if we can schedule a time." We're right now in the middle of a lot of releases. So we haven't had the phone call yet, but we will. I'm happy to talk to him and talk about Ada or anything he's interested in. You guys take a bit too much stock here. Novogratz was Joe Lubin's roommate in Princeton. He's an Ethereum guy. That's through and through. So maybe we can convince him that Cardano is an actual real project. I think he's probably drinking from the Ethereum Kool-Aid and thinking that we're a scam and I'm a pathological liar and a horrible human being. He's read the books that I've read. Hello from Iraq. We love you, Charles. Iraq is one of the prettiest places. It was actually the home of Babylon, and the ruins are there. I actually have cuneiform tablets right there. Hi, Charles. Did you know the mic that you're using, the same mic that Michael Jackson used to record the vocals on Thriller? I did not. I pray I don't suffer the same fate as him. It's a nice piece of trivia. How is the supply chain chip research going? For those of you who don't know, that's a trusted hardware platform. And actually, we're trying to see if we can couple it with RISC-V. And that's currently a project out of the University of Wyoming. So we're at the stage where we went as far as we could go with the local faculty. And we said we should hire somebody, bring them into the lab. So we found a great gal, and I believe they're still in negotiations for her to come and start. And actually, part of that $15 to $30 million budget will be setting up an industrial research center that does something like that. But we're also likely going to use the University of Wyoming for a smart contract engineering institute. But we're not quite where we need to be for that. So I'll wait a little bit of time. You need to get on Lex, then Rogan to battle all these credibility attacks. I'm going to be on Lex Friedman. He's asking me to come on as soon as April, and I told him June. I'm actually got to email him back. Great guy, and I'm excited to go on a show. And, Rogan, we can get on. It's just a question of strategy and timing. I want to wait for the rebrand of IOHK to IOG, and also just a little bit more done in Cardano in our projects so that we can actually have a nice funnel for all the people to come into. That's a 20 million person audience. And so you have to be a bit strategic about the best way of handling that. Charles, have you ever been to Poland? Yep, Krakow and Warsaw. Charles, what Litecoin partnership looking like? I'm waiting for a LIP to be written. The team that was going to do that, they left and started their own company. We went to that team and said, well, we'd love to give you guys some business. And they wanted to charge me an astronomical amount of money after I'd paid for their PhDs and had them work at my company for years. So we said, we'll just do it ourselves. Unfortunately, that slowed us down a little bit for writing the LIP, but I do have somebody for it. It'll just take a little bit longer, and then the Litecoin community can discuss it, and we'll use that same internal team to go and write one for Bitcoin Cash and for other ecosystems. And that's on the NEPA side. That's the life of a CEO. You never forget the good things you do for people. Mr. Hoskinson, what video game IP do you own and plan to work on one day? I own Legends of Valor. I bought the IP for that. I'm also going to create some original titles, and I'll license some things in the Pathfinder world and so forth. We're going to have a lot of fun. What I'd like to do is resurrect the Goldbox engine and clean it up, for like Gateways, Savage Frontier, and Treasures of the Savage Frontier, and keep it in a retro sense. So keep that same taste and feel, but then make it obviously ready for 4K and really beautiful and nice visuals and music. And obviously, you can have a much better user interface because there's 30 years of modernization. And it'd be a lot of fun to do gold box style games in the Pathfinder setting. So we'll see what we can do there. But honestly, it's just not a priority of mine. I'm just so damn busy with everything else. From Dr. Michael Lesser, Charles, it's my birthday. Could I get a happy birthday wish? Yes, Dr. Lesser, happy birthday to you. Charles, I grew up with Sierra Games. Any love? Well, yeah, Freddie Farkas, right? Sierra Games Online. And they did a lot of adventure games. And I think Sierra also was the publishing studio for Lords of Magic. When and where might someone apply for your coming game development studio? It'll be based in Wyoming. I haven't named it yet, but I already have several projects that I really want to get started. Unfortunately, I put it on hold because I had the Cardano stuff, but also because my brother wants to start a biotechnology company. And so we're right now starting that and setting that up as a Wyoming-based C corporation and getting all the IP and all that other stuff. And, that'll be set up around May. So the game company had to take a back seat, but we'll get around to it. What sort of practices do you do to maintain yourself amongst all the bullshit? Just to show you how bad things have gotten, I also use float tanks, isolation tanks, and I tell you, it's one of the best things you can do to de-stress. The facility that I use for float tanks and isolation tanks is literally next door to the King Supers where 10 people were brutally murdered. I almost went that day to go float. It was Isolate is the name of the center, and it's like right next to the King Supers, where 10 people got brutally murdered. And then you tell people 10 people have been brutally murdered, and then you have people on Twitter yell at you about it and say Wind Moon and fuck you and Cardano's bad and you're a scam while you're giving condolences to 10 people dying. There is something seriously fucked up and wrong with the world, and no social consequences to the people who do these things, none whatsoever. We live in an age where everybody just says stuff, and it doesn't matter if it's true, they get away with it. And I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. They say don't let it bother you, but then it escalates and it escalates, and eventually people get deranged, and we see the outcome, violence. Are we just going to live in a world of mass shootings? Are we just going to live in a world where death threats are okay? When people mail you white powder and say it's anthrax, that's okay? Are we going to live in a world where half the people in the world hate the other half the people for reasons that aren't even true? Is this honestly where we're going to go? Turn the other cheek doesn't work in this scenario. There's something just seriously amiss and wrong. Will your biotech gaming companies utilize Cardano at all? Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything we do, there's always going to be some pitch. I'm a sales machine, guys. I tell people to fuck off on Twitter. I can sell that for $7,000. I mean, come on, let's do it. This right here is Chateau Cardano. So there's this guy named Ed. He lives out in Napa Valley in California, and he's a big Cardano fan. So Ed said, hey, I'm just going to name my wine after Cardano. How about that? So we had a call with him, and then I'm like, Ed, we need to get your wine on the blockchain, man. We need to get a QR code right here, and let's do a supply chain and link it to what we're doing in Georgia. How about that? So, of course, everything we do, there's going to be something. The game company, I'd love to do NFTs and in-game currencies and other things and connect them to assets on the Cardano blockchain. On the biotech side, we may do EMR. It might be something we get into, but I'm not sure. But anything we do that involves the supply chain will almost certainly be blockchain based. But yeah, it's just who I am. It's what I do. Un abbraccio a tutti dall'Italia. Sì, sì, sì. What's amazing to me, especially with these live streams, we have people come in and say, my project, in this case, HBAR, which is centralized garbage because it's patented, is far outperforming ADA and scalability and TPS. So is Amazon Web Services. You're about the same. And they are already working with the biggest African bank. What are your thoughts? This is a Charles Hoskinson AMA and a Cardano-centric thing, right? What the fuck do you think I'm going to say? Honestly, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? Let's have an existential moment. Okay? You take a step back from the keyboard and really just look at yourself in the mirror and say, what did I accomplish today? Congratulations, you got me to talk about you. Was that what you wanted to accomplish? Is that what you wanted to do? Are you going to go to the coffee shop now and order your latte and tell all your friends, I cannot believe I got Charles to talk about me and my project? Boy, that's exciting. I did good. So many people are going to support my project now and buy my tokens. And I'm going to be a millionaire because they're buying my tokens because I got Charles to talk about it. I mean, honestly, what do you want, people? Is this really life for you? You could ask any question. We could talk about anything. I could talk about this beautiful 3D rendering of Sierpinski's triangle. That's like in a pyramid. We can talk about all kinds of stuff. But what you want to talk about is a coin I have no interest in, no desire to talk about, because it's patented. And I've already told you that's my position. Now you can disagree with that position. That's great. And you obviously do. So you hold it. Good for you. But why do I care? Microsoft has a lot of great government relationships. They have lots of intellectual property and patents. When they open source, truly open source, like Microsoft did with .NET, then I took .NET seriously. I said, yeah, I'd be willing to do a .NET project when it was proprietary. I didn't know how anything about that ecosystem. I'd never written a single line of F# or C#. The minute they went open source, I actually wrote an F# program. So think that through and ask yourself, why does one person in the world have the ability to stop someone from using that product? It's defensive? I've never applied for a defensive patent. I don't get it sometimes. I really don't. What people want to achieve, what they want to accomplish. Just bought HBAR. Thank you. You are welcome. Good for you. Have fun. Why do you think that affects me? Why do you think that bothers me? People say, I sold all my ADA, or I bought ADA, or I bought this. Compare and contrast. I don't make money if you buy ADA. I don't lose money if you sell ADA. Okay, you're not buying ADA from me. It's not like I have a vending machine with a big ADA symbol on the side. You go put $1 in, you buy your ADA, and then somehow I get that $1. That's not how this works. And if you buy HBAR, it has no impact on my life. Sky, none. Oh my Lord, people. Charles, can you solve a Rubik's Cube? Yes, but not as fast as a mantis shrimp. What are your thoughts about Dfinity and Dominic Williams? I've called Dominic way back in the day. We used to talk on Skype years ago. And then he raised a bunch of money for Dfinity, and then they decided they were going to be a Haskell science shop. And so they started hiring Haskell developers, and they started hiring scientists. What really pisses me off about Dfinity is they've been trying to poach some of my people. And so they're on my shit list forever. If you try to actually poach my scientists or engineers, we're not on good terms. So I'm sorry, Dom. I'm going to now try to poach your people, and that's just the way it is. My people don't leave usually because they like working at the company. We do interesting work, but it's a discourtesy to attempt to do these things. And I have no idea why you do that. You're out there in California, living the Valley Dream. You raised $150 million. Why would you do that? But nothing but nice. Yeah, this right here was the tweet. I sold that one for $7,000. And that was in reply to a person that mocked the death of 10 people at the supermarket. Where is your complaint against that person, Bobby? Where is it? Why am I the bad guy in this one? Fighting for people who have been murdered. Why is that acceptable? What social consequence will that person face? Yeah, I'm sorry. We live in a world where there needs to be reciprocity. So where is it, Bobby? It's not there. You friends with Elon? I've met him a few times, but no, I'm not friends with him. I barely know the guy. He barely knows me. If I lived in Austin or California, I think we'd rub shoulders more. Interesting guy. How will you celebrate D equals 0? I'll do a live stream with you guys. We'll celebrate it together. Where did the sales proceeds go? I did a live stream. This is another thing. I do a live stream. I donated it to the people who were murdered alongside $2,000 of my own money. So I donated 9,000. I raised 7,000. And then people said I sold the tweet for profit and I didn't donate, even though I live streamed the actual donation. This is the world we live in. You can see how frustrated I've become. uh, Totoro, exactly. That is a Totoro I purchased at Narita Airport. I flew back with it, came with me business class, sat in that little table. They almost made me buy another ticket because it's Totoro. So this is the boogeyman that isn't. I'm scared of investing money in the power of quantum computing being able to attack and take funds in the future. Your thoughts on quantum computing and how it could be a POS or negative in the space. So I assume you're saying positive or negative in the space. I'm not concerned at all. Next 5 years, we'll clean all that up. Hey, Charles, have you ever owned an Oliver tractor? I do have one, actually. Charles, what's happened with the QuantStamp audit? I think it's already out. Actually, let me ask Charles Morgan right now. I think they're done with the audit, and the report should have already been publicly released. But I am going to ask our director of cybersecurity and Jer during this live stream. Just got to open up Slack, and it's virtualized, so it just takes a second to open up. Okay, scrolling over. See, this is some real-time prodding, right? Okay, direct message, Charles Morgan. All right, and then Jer Maroney. All right. Whatever happened with the quant stamp audit? Could you send me, oopsie, could you send me the final report? Okay. So as soon as Jer and Charles get back to me, and it's Saturday, so I don't know if they will, I will reply back with the report. And if it was never publicly released, I'll make sure it is. But my understanding was that it was released because we tend to release those reports about a month or two after reconciliation. Mm-hmm. Much love for you here in Germany. Well, thank you, Game Dude. I love Germany. Charles, do you play any instruments? Yes, I do. I play the piano poorly. What's your favorite genre of music? All over the place. I love classic rock, especially Boston and CCR and so forth. Getting a lot into country these days because I'm doing a lot of farming and ranching stuff, and you just absorb that through your tissue because that's what happens. Um, and I also listen to like in the Lambo synth wave and things like that. Charles, how do you find investors for a project? Actually, a really interesting question. So 3 days ago, we had a VC meeting with the Artano guys. They came on in, and they actually came in about a week or two ago. And I said, come back when you know how to do a business model canvas. And I actually gave them a class on Coursera. I said, take this class. It'll teach you how to do a business model canvas. Do a canvas. Let's talk around the whole thing. So they came back and they did their presentation again. And I had my VC people there, and Tam was there, and Jer was there, and others. And we were quite aggressive in that meeting because, here's the thing. When you apply for money from a VC, the thing you must know is, where is your market going to go and why are you going to win? So for NFTs, for example, it's not my job to know who's going to win or fail in NFTs. And it's not my job to know where that market's going to be. If you're trying to ask money from me, you want me to invest in you, you're a storyteller. And what you're doing is you're coming in and you're telling a story about where the world's going to be in 5 years or 10 years. And then you include in that story why you're the guy or the gal who's going to figure it out and get that done. Now, there's a lot of execution details. There's legal questions. There's founders agreements, shareholder agreements, valuations. There's, where's your budget at? How much you spend on marketing? What's your customer acquisition cost, your churn? In the case of NFT marketplaces, it's a multi-sided market. Okay, so you have to have the producers and the consumers. And then there's unique questions in every industry. For example, when you create an NFT, what the fuck are you buying? When I converted those two tweets, the do you know who I am tweet and the go fuck yourself tweet, one sold for $7,000, the other sold for $23,000. It is not clear to me what the person actually purchased. I created something. Okay, so we took a tweet, we associated it with a token. This now lives on the Ethereum blockchain, and somebody showed up and bought it. Okay, and it's for a good cause. I'll use the money for microfinance, and I donated it to shooting victims and so forth. Great, but in abstraction, in general, when you purchase these things, what are you buying? I got art back there. I got art here. I have a Vladimir Kush painting right here. And this is a Soul in Hell. It's a 19th century painting. I know what I'm buying when I buy those things. Copies or originals, I know what that is. But when you buy that tweet, what are you buying? Okay. So you have to talk about that whole thing. How do you win? Why is what you're doing going to fundamentally disrupt or change whatever industry you're in? And you're telling me that story. Now, if I'm an investor, if I'm excited and captivated with that story, then what ends up happening is we become companions. We want to live that story together. So even if you have deficits, those are just challenges. But I want to go on the journey. So, okay, who cares if we have to find a place to sleep? Who cares that there's going to be bandits? Who cares about all these things? That's what makes it fun and exciting. But I want to go on that journey because the world you've told me is amazing and magical and exciting. So that's how you raise money. Now, everything else is a risk. And your job as a post-funded entrepreneur is to play the game of de-risking and companionship. You bring companions in, and those people have complementary skill sets. So I look at other things. Are you greedy or not? I will never invest in a company if one of the founders has 90% or 95%. I just won't do it. I say, you're all friends now, but what happens when everybody gets rich and you get $9 for every $1 every other person the company gets? Come on, that just makes no sense. It's not a sound and stable, solid business structure. It doesn't make any sense to me. So in addition to being a good storyteller, you have to demonstrate the camaraderie and companionship of the people who want to go on this crazy journey. Okay. And you can't say, well, I will only quit my job if I'm going to get funded. Great. So you're not willing to take a risk, but you want to take my money to take a risk. So where's your skin in the game? That's the other side of raising capital. You have to have skin in the game. Every time I've ever gone out there and done something risky, I was in a position where I made zero money and I was only doing that. And the only way I wasn't going to starve to death, and the only way I was ever going to have a bank account that wasn't negative, was if I succeeded. It's the moral equivalent of, you're going to go fight some enemy, you meet on an island, and you set your ships on fire. And you said, the only way we're getting off this island, going home, is killing the other guy and taking his ships. Okay? If you can't put yourself in that position, you're not an entrepreneur. You're a wantrepreneur. You want the money, you want the fame, you want the success, but you don't have the rigor, the drive. I'm a little tired right now, but make no mistake, after I rest and recharge, I'm going to come back and I'll be 10 times more competitive and vicious and relentless as anybody else on the field. I don't like to lose. And no amount of money, fame, respect ever gets me to a point where I lose that drive. It's just who I am. It's what I am. Um, and it's what I'm forged in myself. It was not easy building Cardano. I had to travel 200, 250 days a year. I had to build a company while traveling. I had to build a research group while traveling. We had to write code and release it while traveling. I had to deal with all kinds of things you'd never imagine again and again and again. And I couldn't complain. I couldn't wake up and, oh, woe is me. No, because people relied upon me. Either got done or it didn't get done. So you have to demonstrate that as an entrepreneur, and where you can find investors. They're easy to find. There's 1,000 accelerators, there's 1,000 incubators, there's 10,000 VCs. Catalyst alone has $250 million of funding. But at the end of the day, whether you get a check and a chance or you don't, is whether you can demonstrate you're an entrepreneur or a wantrepreneur. And entrepreneurs are great storytellers. They tell you where they're going to go. They demonstrate their grit. They show that they can get great companions and take them along with the ride. And it's a fair arrangement for along with the ride. And they demonstrate they're willing to do what's necessary to win. Avalanche or the Broncos? Well, I don't watch football anymore. Avalanche. Used to be a huge Broncos fan. Loved football, but just got too political. And I said, you know what? It's a great sport, but you guys have fun with it. The last games I watched were the Super Bowls with Tom Brady. That's it. When he retires, he retires. And that's it. There's no more connection to football for me ever again. Most delicious fruit. Stay healthy. Star fruit. That's true. Tom Brady is not retired, but I only watch him in the big games. He'll retire in a year or two. There's no way the guy can just keep going. Charles, have you ever been to Iceland? Yep, Blue Lagoon, the volcanoes. It is one of the prettiest places around. There's some places in Iceland look like an alien planet, and I love those glaciers. They're a lot of fun to paramotor around. Finally, a real question. Favorite League of Legends pro team? I haven't followed League of Legends in a while either, but I used to play League of Legends. I was Xerath and Kassadin mid. And boy, I had fun. And I love doing Zillion bot. Zillion is actually, if you can play Zillion well, and I used to be able to, it was one of the funnest things in the world. Most fun. Charles, why Lambo? You don't seem like a materialistic person to me, because I really like driving very fast. I used to have a motorcycle. I enjoyed that. It's a bit too dangerous now, so the Lamborghini is a nice compromise. I got one for a consulting gig that I did, and I enjoyed it so much that I kind of stayed in the family. And you can track race it, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And one of these days, it'll get me killed, but not today. Got a lot more living to do. Longest car ride you've ever been on? I drove from Colorado to Virginia, and I drove through West Virginia at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I have some stories about stuff that happened. 32-hour drive. And I had XM satellite radio. Bought a subscription right before I drove, and I listened to a lot of Howard Stern, and I think they still had Playboy Radio at the time. Not materialistic. LOL. Look at all the cool shit in his office. Everything in my office has a story. It's associated with something. Either they were gifts or things I had built because I mentally or emotionally connect to them. It's not like I have giant gold bars sitting down there. And if I lost these things, I'd lose them. I wouldn't really mourn it. After getting pushed out of Ethereum and other things, it showed me how ephemeral everything is. I've been broke to crazy rich and there and back again a few times. And so you enjoy the times as they are, but they don't define you. You're defined by the people that you help, the ideas that you have, in the things that you do. And never think that just because you hold a particular credential or an office or happen to have more of an arbitrary number of X, whether that be dollars or crypto or whatever it is, that somehow that validates you as a human being. I assure you, at the Perkins, I get treated exactly the same as everybody else, and that's the way it should be. And I'll tell you what the ultimate equalizer is. Have horses. They'll shit on you whether you have $1 billion in the bank account or no dollars in the bank account, and they don't care. How do you handle such a busy company and a farm in parallel? I have farm hands. Just like the company, you have delegation. You can't delegate, you can't get it done. So I enjoy having farm hands. It works quite well. You're a chill billionaire. I tell you one thing that's going to make me so chill. I'm going to restart the joy of painting. You see, once you get to a certain level in life, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. So I'm going to take painting lessons when I have time, which I don't. So I'll have to find it or, rearrange my schedule in some way or hire some guy to help me. But the painting thing will come into the office and sit down and I'll do drawing so I don't have to do stick figures anymore. And I'm going to learn how to do Bob Ross style paintings. Now, if I can get there, and I promise you it'll take a long time, maybe a year, 2 years, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm doing it. I'm just going to surprise you guys, just like with the people of IOG. Suddenly you just see a live stream and it's going to say, "Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson live from warm, sunny Colorado. Welcome to the joy of painting." Of course, for copyright reasons, I'll probably have to change it, but I will look like Bob Ross. I almost got the beard. The afro probably not going to come because I'm losing my hair, but I'm going to sit there and I'm going to paint with you guys, and I'm going to put a little happy cabin. It's going to be great. And we're going to have a forest. And that's the cabin that Dan Larimer moved into after he left EOS, where he's considering his next project. I'll paint a little something for Vitalik. He likes fishing. It's going to be great. We're going to have so much fun together. But that's how you get chill, is you follow your passions and your hobbies. You don't take yourself too seriously, and, you don't be so intense. Nothing in life. There are so few things in life outside the loss of life that call for the occasion to be tense. You should have fun and enjoy what you do and enjoy the work that you do. And laugh a little bit. I remember I walked into a really tense meeting the other day and I said, guys, I have spent 20 minutes this morning. I should be working, but I spent 20 minutes this morning looking at pictures on Google of not armadillos, but anteaters in t-shirts. Seriously, Google this shit. Look at anteaters wearing shirts, and you'll see the cutest damn anteaters that you've ever seen in your life wearing shirts and sweaters. And I just had to show everybody at the meeting. I said, I know we're supposed to be doing work, but we're going to spend 2 minutes in this meeting, this very tense meeting, talking about legal stuff and other things. I don't care about any of that. We're going to look at anteaters in their nice little sweaters and so forth. And you know what happened? It was one of the most productive meetings we had after we got out past the anteaters. Why? Because everybody was stressed. Their shields were up. They were defensive. They were like tense. We brought in the anteater with the magical shirts. The people were like, wow, that's so cute. That's so cool. And then suddenly they couldn't remember that they were stressed. You de-escalated. They didn't want to think about the adversarial stuff. They're like, okay, yeah, if that anteater can wear a shirt and be happy and ride around in one of those little mop buckets, then I can be happy, right? That's the key to life. And that's the key to surviving. You're going to have ups and downs, and there's always things that come and hit you. And every time you reach a new level, you have a lot of challenges and you're a little uncomfortable. It's like the fresh black belt. All the other black belts kick your ass out of principle. But at some point in life, you get to a steady state. And then what you do is you relax, you feel comfortable, and you're in flow. And that's the key. So I'm going to learn how to paint. We're going to do the joy of painting, and we're going to do it together. And I'm going to master stand-up comedy from it. It's going to be great through painting. You guys will watch because you know you want to. And I will get an anteater one day, and I will put a shirt on it. See, he took the bait. So happy now. Looked at the anteater. Whenever you have a bad day or someone is having a bad day, take several pictures on your phone of anteaters and shirts and try that experiment. Say, I hear you and I understand you're having a bad day, but I want to show you something. And you'll show them the anteater and the shirts, and they'll be like, wow, that is so cool. That can't be real. That has to be Photoshop. You're like, no, no, no. They like wearing sweaters. There's an actual Facebook page with anteaters wearing clothes. Holy shit. Tell me about it, right? You didn't know that until today, just now. That's why you watched the AMA. How can schools develop the next generation of cryptographers when math skills are so bad? It's the same question for physicists, engineers, applied mathematicians, bioinformatics people. It's a difficult one, right? Mathematical competency is not where it needs to be. I think the big issue is that math is not taught correctly. And there's a big debate in the mathematical community about the proper pedagogy for mathematics and when and how to introduce things and how do you transition from arithmetic to algebra to calculus and so forth. And also, when do you do abstract problem solving? For example, most high school students who have never read a book called How to Solve It from George Poya. And ironically, that is the book that many Eastern Europeans, when they went to high school, read, because it was like the canonical book on problem solving for high school students. And it gives you a completely different view of mathematics than just solving a linear equation or zeroing out a matrix or something like that. So it's a difficult question in general, but I think the key is having a pedagogy that encourages people to look at mathematics as not just adding things and subtracting things or solving an algebraic equation, but in mathematics as a collection of mental tools, cognitive tools that allow you to think about how to solve problems. And I think the first part of surveying the damage that's done by modern pedagogy is just asking people how much do they like story problems, and pull them in 8th grade or 9th grade or something. And if they love them, you're doing something right. If they hate them, then you're doing something fundamentally wrong in the way that you're approaching teaching mathematics. Now, getting to the level of being a proper cryptographer, very few human beings do that. It's just a lot. You have to know a lot of applied computer science, theoretical computer science, and then you have to know a lot about certain topics of mathematics, like number theory and combinatorics and probability theory and so forth, at least comfortable enough to actually manipulate these things and work with those abstractions. That takes a gargantuan amount of passion, and most people won't get there. Now, that said, most people don't need to be cryptographers. In fact, the vast majority of people who are interested in information security don't go and become proper academic cryptographers like our chief scientist. They go get a bachelor's or a master's degree in information security, and they become appliers, and they think about the whole space, and they think about, how do I keep something secure, and physical security, theoretical security, software security, hardware security, these types of things. InfoSec is a completely different thing than cryptography. And it is a consumer of cryptography, no doubt, but that's mostly a black box to a lot of the InfoSec people. They just assume the algorithms are correctly implemented, and they assume the security proofs are right, and they think much more about the human elements, and basically, how do you deal with social engineering, and how do you build systems that are secure despite the fact that they will fail, and they have redundancies built in and so forth. And we have from Bill Gates, why is Cardano always Cardano except for when it's sometimes Colorado and never Colorado? Sorry, one more time. Why is Colorado always Colorado except when it's sometimes Colorado and never Colorado? God, that's a tongue twister, right? Well, Bill, I don't know. You tell me. What's your favorite whiskey, Charles? Depends on my mood, but Hibiki is pretty damn good. Did you ever try running? Did you ever end up trying out Microsoft Mesh? I got my HoloLens right here. Let me show you. It's a really cool device. It's self-contained, and it projects holograms about this far in front of you, and use your finger like this to tap them. So you put the device on your head like so, and then it will project the hologram out. And then what you can do is you can lift the helmet up when you're done. So this is a full computer. It's about $3,500, which is really remarkable when you think about all the stuff that's going on. The field of view is a box about yay big. And then if you move your head, you lose the field of view. So this is the HoloLens 2. I think when they hit the 3, that's going to be the breakthrough consumer product. And Apple's working on a comparable AR device. Now, we have yet to actually get all of the mesh stuff working because we've been so busy, but that's actually something we're going to do next week. Diogenes of Germany. Do you play Warhammer 40K? Enough to remind you that a moment of laxity spawns a lifetime of heresy. And an open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and open. Whiskey and gout. Therein lies the rub, my friend. Yes. Hey, Charles, when will you reveal the Cardano 2025 roadmap? Can you give a teaser about it? Yeah, a lot of stuff is in it. A lot of stuff to think about. If I had a proper Windows box running, I could actually draw some stuff out right now. We'll do it when we get closer to the DCF announcement, and we'll talk about that probably at the Goguen Summit. Microsoft Ion on Bitcoin mainnet. Yeah, that's an example of Bitcoin is the safe chain. Used to be the anarchistic rogue rebel thing, right? Now Bitcoin is safe. Yeah, and we're interoperable with it because they use the DID standard and we do too. Any advice for computer scientists on approaching or trying to learn blockchain in the crypto sphere? Well, tell me a little bit about your background. What field of computer science do you come from? And I can give you a series of papers that I think will help you out. Longevity escape velocity. This actually comes from Aubrey de Grey. And actually, it's something that Hoskinson Biotechnologies is looking at. We're looking at regenerative medicine and regenerative biology and anti-aging technology. So I will have a very strong opinion on these things next year. And of course, we'll have some product or project that we're working on. And I think there's very few places to better spend my money than in something like that. The reality is that we all die, and whether we die with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and no dignity, or we die reasonably comfortable, is completely dependent upon lifestyle and genes and the luck of the draw right now. The point of regenerative medicine and biology is to try to blunt mute a lot of these chronic disorders that make the tail end of life deeply uncomfortable. And if we ever get lucky to slow down the aging process enough that eventually we reverse it and we could live for a very long time. That's the holy grail. But even if you don't get there, I'd like to die with some dignity because I watched my grandmother die from Parkinson's, my grandfather die from Alzheimer's, and my other grandmother die from Lewy body dementia. That was not pleasant, and I'd rather not suffer that fate. Hi, Charles. Can you please tune us in about when the smart contracts be officially launched? Watch the Cardano 360 episode we had yesterday. Are you getting Starlink for your ranch? No, I'm going to build some 5G towers. And while I'm connecting to them, I'll be shooting up vaccines and bathing in orphan blood while eating pizza in the basement. You fucking conspiracy theory people. Charles, can you say a little bit more about the African announcement delay? Others, it's on their side. We're ready to go. In fact, I signed a decision memo last week specifically to hire more than 30 people in Ethiopia. The big issue was that it had to go because it wasn't tendered properly through a special committee. And that special committee finally signed off. Give you the exact date. It was actually this week. That committee signed off as of looking at my back and forth with John, Thursday, March 25th. So now it goes straight to the minister to sign. So we'll have more to say about that. But that's the last mile right there. And the committee was very onerous on a lot of requirements. Like they wanted certain minutes done a certain way and certain things to appear in a certain thing and rah, rah, rah. A lot of government bureaucracy. That said, we got to a point where we were very confident because everybody wanted the deal to go through and there was no one else involved in it. So we said, all right, setting bureaucracy aside, let's go ahead and start scaling and building. And what we're going to do is, because we promised some people an exclusive, we're not going to say too much about that. But all of that is bundled together with the Africa special. So when you see Africa special, you'll see all that stuff. But I feel very confident in it. I was a bit perplexed because back in October everything was good, and then it wasn't, and I was like, okay. And then we felt very solid in January. Then we felt very solid in February. And then what happens is just more and more bureaucracy and more people got involved and more things happened. But it got to a breaking point where we're like, guys, come on. And March 25th was really the date that kind of pushed that through. And so now it's more formality than anything else. But that's the nature of business with governments, not just African governments, but governments in general, especially when you do things that are a little unorthodox, is that you have to sometimes tolerate that when other actors come in, it slows things down and bureaucracy gets involved. Because at the end of the day, they represent their people and they want their people to, get the best outcome. And I live and eat and sleep and breathe this stuff. I wake up every day with this stuff. And we're fired up and ready to go. But some other guy out there, this is the first time they've seen it and thought about it, and so it's scary and it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to do. It's a big commitment. And if you get that guy comfortable, what happens when the new guy comes in? You got to get that guy comfortable, and it's a process, and it's a finite process because you run out of guys. Eventually, you get through all of them. It's like bosses, but you have to be patient, and that's the downside of the push model with public-private partnerships. But on the other side, if you get it done, you get access to millions of people, and you usually have strong barriers to exit and long arc deals that you do. But we are going to start moving to a pull model as well and doing consumer products in 2022 in Africa that are in the payments and in the identity space. And I think both Prism and Hydra will have matured to a point, as well as obviously the smart contract stack of Cardano, where that's a viable strategy. But it's going to be very expensive. It's going to cost me at least $10 to $20 million a year for several years at a loss to get to a point where we can get a sustainable market. But what the hell else am I going to do? Come on. It's fun. I love these deals. I love these markets. I love running around Africa. It's a lot more fun than being in Silicon Valley. What model of all-over tractor do you have? Also, what are your thoughts on AI on the blockchain? I will take a picture of it and post it for you, Crypto Knight, because it came with the farm. It's a very old tractor, and I need to refurbish it and bring it up to speed. And I think it's from the 1960s or late 50s. And I've never used it. I've never turned it on. It just kind of sits there as a lawn ornament. And the prior owner that I bought the farm from, when he was a kid, in the guy's in his 80s, when he was a kid, his dad ran that. So it gives you a sense of how old it is. That's a really good question, too. For Africa plans, any concern with political regime changes? For example, what if the new guy gets elected and sees his power and decides he doesn't want his people having decentralized finance? So first off, whenever you do a deal where there's a lack of rule of law or there's a little bit of shakiness on the political infrastructure, what you have to do is you have to build a deal where the economic incentives, regardless of the regime that's in place, are such that the deal is stable, because nobody wants to cancel it because you're firing everybody's cousin. You're firing everybody's, you're taking money out of everybody's pocket. And that means you care a little less about the contract. You care a lot more about the economics and the deal structure. And you also have to be willing, in many cases, to be a minor party, even though you could be a major party, because that's what's good for the stability of the deal. So, for example, let's say you just two companies could do the entire servicing. Maybe you add one or two local companies and create a lot of local jobs, and you go and do this in several different jurisdictions. And okay, it adds a cost overhead of an extra 5% or 10%. But then once you've done that, any politician that comes in that cancels that fires people in like 6 different places. It's like no one wants to be that guy. This happens in America with the defense contractors. Look at Boeing. They make sure every place in America, there's somebody somewhere, same for Northrop Grumman and Raytheon, that's creating a job in some congressional district, especially swing districts. And if you go and cut their funding, They, of course, have to pull out of those districts, and there's political consequence to it. So game theory oftentimes aligns people much better than contracts and rule of law. Contracts in an ideal world are about common understanding. They're about aligning people and say, okay, this is what we're doing. But there's ambiguity there. And also, you're dealing with emergent technology, and all kinds of things can happen. Civil wars can break out, and new president comes in. Like, every understanding the US government had is under scrutiny because Biden is president now. So anything Trump did, the Biden administration is saying, do we keep it or kill it? So you could have, in 2020 in September, had the best meeting ever with Pompeo and the US State Department. And then all of a sudden, there's a new State Department, a new president, and there's a huge amount of uncertainty. Even though you're best friends with all those people, the new regime is in. And so they say, yeah, maybe we do things differently. This is the problem with representative democracy and government changes that are sudden, is that there's a little bit of consistency issues and not quite the durability you need. Now, Biden won't cancel anything that's politically damaging. Even if there's stuff with Operation Warp Speed that he probably hates and doesn't like, that are just bad idea, if it would interrupt with the vaccine supply chain and the totality of the distribution of vaccines and be politically damaging for him, he's not going to do it. No politician in the right mind will do it. They kept that infrastructure mostly in place. If you actually peel back the layers and you look at what's happened there, because it was in everybody's best interest just to get this done, even though there's corruption and nepotism, and maybe Novavax shouldn't have gotten all the money that they got. And there's not a lot of questions asked about the fact that when Johnson & Johnson got approved, they promised to have 100 million doses ready to go, and they barely made 4 million doses. Wait, I thought they were going to pre-manufacture the vaccine whether it was approved or not. So why didn't they? We all kind of swept that under the rug, right? Because politics. So that's one dimension, and that's not Africa, that's the world. And let's be adults. That's how the world works and human beings work. We're not rational actors. Now, where and when you can get rule of law and where and when you can get contractual advantages, that's great. And that's awesome when you're dealing with companies. But if your counterparties are sovereign governments, they never play fair, ever. And you can't sue them. Even if you try and you win, ask everybody who's tried to go down that road, unless you're a big multinational company like a Microsoft or an ExxonMobil or something like that. And you have certain powers that we as a small company don't have. So I look at these things in a game theoretic sense, and that's why it does take quite a bit of time to get a lot of these things done sometimes when you're talking about a PPP, but it's a good anchoring point, and then it gives you a foundation to work with, and usually the customer base is something you can grow with. And then the pull model is better because that is decentralized, and that's not permissionful. It doesn't matter who's in charge. If it runs on your phone, you can't stop your people from doing that, even if it's inconvenient to you. So you need kind of a mixture of both those things, and together I think you can affect a lot of change. At least that's the way I think about it, and it's from my personal experience. I've seen a lot of problems and, things that opened up, things that closed. I remember when we were just about to bid on a hurricane relief thing with the U.S. State Department, and that was under Rex Tillerson, and we thought for sure we were going to get it. We'd talked to several people at the U.S. State Department. We were all fired up, ready to go. And then that week, Tillerson was fired, and they brought a new guy in. And I was like, so that's still going on? They're like, yeah, just wait a little bit until we figure out what we're doing. And then we never talked about it again. It was so frustrating too, because I was really excited about that one. But you live, you learn. These things happen. Charles, when do you want the Goguen Summit? August in person? It'll be online and likely September, and we'll announce that at a later date. The world is still where it's at. Next year will be better. What are your responsibilities after the Voltaire era? Those will be decided by the community. We'll make a proposal. You guys will vote. And if we don't pass, well, then you'll counter and we'll come to an understanding. I think we have a pretty clear vision of what we can do on the science and engineering side. And I'd like to broaden it to about 20 to 30 different companies from the core three. And we can make much more progress in parallel. What's the solution for people who are not connected? Get them connected through micro ISPs or use cryptography that works online, offline, and off chain. And we're doing both, one through a partnership and the other through direct research. Any comments on the F delays? Well, they would comment on the Cardano delays, wouldn't they, if I commented on the F delays? My only comment is this shit's hard, complicated business. What if the United States government banned the Bitcoin? What would happen to Cardano? That ship has sailed. Bitcoin is not getting banned. Charles, which Lambo do you have? I currently have out there a Huracan Evo, matte black. And I love it. It's got titanium tailpipes and it's loud. One of these days I'll go deaf. Do you own dogs? If so, which breeds? I got 4 dogs, 2 tiny ones, 2 big ones. Actually, well, I know. Well, 3 big ones now, 1 tiny one. I had 2 little ones, but one died. Placed it with another big one. Well, when Lambo paid with Cardano, that Lambo was paid with Bitcoin. It would be fun to do a deal with Lamborghini. I like that company. I want to share ideas with you. Okay, well, send me an email. Is the Lambo hard to drive? No, the Huracan Evo drives very well. In Strada, you drive it like an Audi. In Sport, you drive it like a Lambo. And in Corsa, you drive it like a track car. Do you believe in free will? I will comment if I'm ever on Sam Harris's show. We'll have a long conversation about it. It'd be great. Paper wallet? Peppers? You like the peppers? The pepper wallet? Haha. We will definitely have a statement about that. I really want my fucking QR code paper wallet. I made the video about that in September of last year. And I really want that wallet. That'd be a lot of fun. Charles, glow in the dark driveway. How's that coming along? Still thinking about it. I'm going to put probably a paper stone driveway in and either do glow in the dark route or have some of the paver stones be glow in the dark, but I have to rip up the whole driveway. So I'm waiting for the geothermal to come in because the geothermal can give me radiant heat. Then if I have radiant heat, I have a snow melt paver driveway, and then you can do the glow in the dark then. Yeah. Yeah. Ah. Ah. How is the farm doing? Probably going to get some alpacas here in a little bit. It's doing good. Do you watch MMA? Yeah, I do. People come over, we talk about it. Hello, look British, my man. Well, Ishmael, I'm glad you're British. Are we living in a simulation? Yes, it's my nightmare. Charles, did you grow up in a religious home? Yeah, we all worshipped Odin. Unfortunately, not many people do anymore, so it was hard to socialize, but we got it done. We got it done. That's why I still have that beautiful woodcut of Odin fighting Fenrir on Sleipnir with his two ravens, Hugin and Munin. The world wolf will devour us all during Ragnarok. Please try a Scottish accent. It's much better than all me others. Let me tell you, especially when I'm tired and worn down. I'd be like, what you doing? What you doing the Scottish? You got the whiskey and the haggis. And a wee bit of the rough and tumble, eh? And a nice sheep's stomach. Dear Charles, what programming language would be the best to learn? Well, it depends on where you're starting, but Python is probably the way to go. What else? Come on, come on. You ever watch Billy Connolly? Ha. Let's see here. Do you get many funny prank calls or do you do them yourself? I get a lot of prank calls. A lot of people send me notes or reach out to me or do things. And actually, recently, I've had a lot more people drive by my farm shouting my name. I hope it's for good reasons. Probably should invest more in cameras and security. I got some cameras I recently put up, and we're scaling up the security as well. Have you ever eaten a Wiener Schnitzel? Yes, I enjoy the schnitzel. Charles, do you think any of Peter Schiff or Mike Green's criticisms of crypto are fair? When Peter Schiff can run an investment fund that actually makes money, I'll listen to him. Sorry, Peter, I've known you for years, man. I've seen you many times back from the Ron Paul days on forward. Get on the fucking Bitcoin train. Come on. It's all right. All is forgiven. Peter, he's like that Japanese soldier who kept fighting World War II and like was hiding in the jungles of the Philippines into the late 70s. And they had to find his old commanding officer to go and convince him that Japan had surrendered. Well, this is where Peter Schiff is at. He's going to be on the anti-Bitcoin train in 2050. That'd make a good NFT, by the way. Can you guys do a Peter Schiff hiding in the jungles of the Philippines, fighting World War II NFT, trying to avoid Bitcoin finding him, like living in the jungle trees. When Lambo Tractor. It's either Lambo Tractor or Fendt. I might actually get a Lambo Tractor for the ranch up in Wyoming. I need a much larger platform. The Massey's just not going to cut it. That elusive jungle-dwelling Peter Schiff, always running from Bitcoin. Luke Miller. Hey, Charles, what's your favorite Ethiopian coffee? Actually, if you actually go to Ethiopia, it turns out that the coffee that they drink in Ethiopia is a lower grade than the coffee that they export. So everybody's thinking, oh, it's this mecca for coffee. And it's true, there's tons of great coffee shops. Although I'm a little biased because I used to live in Indonesia and we had all the Javanese coffee and you get straight from the plantation. It was so good. But I'm gonna have to give that a thought. I like Ethiopian coffee, but there's certain blends that I like a little bit more in Colombia and in Indonesia. And actually, I've become a good fan of what is that? Elephant coffee. There's this brand of coffee. It's like Black Ivory or whatever it's called, where the elephants eat the coffee beans and they shit them out, and then they roast them and they taste actually really, really good. It's like Kopi Luwak coffee. And when you buy it, it actually supports elephant conservation. Bet you didn't know about that elephant poop coffee, did you? Yeah, you didn't. Just like the anteaters and the sweaters. Buy your friend some elephant poop coffee. They'll drink it and then tell them where it came from. Charles, what about the mycology? How's that going? Yeah, we're going to actually start growing some lion's mane here in a little bit. I've been sending Lexi all around the world to all these mushroom seminars to become like the world's best mycologist. And we're talking about using shipping crates to actually do the mycological culturing. But we'll figure it out. Philippines represent. I was just on a call with Governor Garcia, and we were talking about Tarlac City. I like the Philippines. It's a beautiful place. I'd like to do something there too. Ever been to Toronto? I have. I have very fond memories in Toronto. Come to my coffee shop and plantation in Indonesia. Charles, you're always welcome. Wilfot Hill, where are you actually based? What island? Notice me, senpai. No, senpai cannot notice you until you notice yourself. Lennon or McCartney? I think I've ended up as blockchain McCartney. Ever been to Okinawa? Virtual hug, virtual hug, virtual hug. Yes. And actually, we're trying to right now work out a deal with a local university in Okinawa. We've been in conversations. There's an economic development zone there, and it might be a good entry point for my company to finally start scaling up in Japan. So we'll see what we can do there. Have you ever been to Greece? Come on now. You know the answer to that. All right, we're going to cut it loose here in just a second. And how we always do that is by going to Kiva. Yay, Kiva. Woo. And doing a microfinance transaction. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on share screen. Rah. All right, so for those of you who are not familiar with this, what I've been doing lately is going to Kiva every time I do an AMA, and we give out a microfinance loan. So I haven't picked anybody yet, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So hang on, let me stop sharing, and we'll go ahead and sign in. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and share cam. So first things first, let's take a look at our current portfolio. So I've done several loans, and Rosa from Kenya, she's paying back. She's already paid back how much? $51 so far, about 9% of the loan. We have a nice balance of female to male, so we try to keep it 50-50. So let's go ahead and do one guy, and let's go, and we'll make this an interactive process. So you guys, let's go ahead and take a look. Where should we lend? Regions: North America, Central America, South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Oceania. You know, a lot of people don't know, but the United States actually has a large population of unbanked people. So let's take a look at what's in the Kiva portfolio for the U.S. Okay. Okay. Equipment: Amy, Will, Robert, Casey, Jamie, Yives. What do you guys think? Africa, South America. All right, well, let's take a look and see what we got in Africa. It's a fun interactive process, right? Africa. Oh, a lot of countries there. Let's pick one I've never been to. I have never been to Togo. Let's see what we got there in Togo. Well, it is Women's Month. Yeah. Okay. What about Adzoa? All right. So she's 59 years old. She's married. She has 5 children. She sells oil and pates. She sells oil at the market and cooks to sell in the neighborhood. In order to develop her business, she seeks a loan to buy oil cans and pay for the full transport. And there's $900 to go. So let's do it. Wait. I can't give her the full amount. Hang on. Let's see here. Lend now. See to check out. Maybe we can increase it in here. Yeah, we can. There we go. That's the full amount. So that'll knock her over. We'll do a donation to Kiva. All right. So we'll stop our screen sharing for a moment. And we'll go ahead and go through the checkout process. Log in. Continue. So if any of you have ever been to Togo, tell me how it's been and how it is. And next time I go on my Africa tour, I'll make sure I go there. Aha! There we go. All right, so share screen again. And I tell you, people ask what drives me. One of my life goals is making sure that we can do this on Cardano. And there she is, fully funded, ready to go. So Godspeed. I wish you best with your 40 cans of oil. And let's see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun to see her business thrive. And I hope this does good for her. You know, microfinance changes lives. It's a really cool thing. And Kiva has been a platform that I've enjoyed for well over 10 years. And I really do like doing these loans. They're so much fun. But as I said, really, if we're going to change the world, we need to get to peer-to-peer microfinance, and people need to make money from it. Yeah, with a Kiva loan, you get the best case scenarios, you get repaid. Usually that doesn't happen in full. Sometimes it doesn't. So it's charity. So most people don't put that into the routine. But if there was a usual repayment and it was 5-10%, that would just be part of your portfolio. And then suddenly you'd have a wealth transfer of billions of dollars to the developing world because it's actually a financially sensible thing to do. And that changes a lot of people's lives. So until next time, everybody, thank you so much for watching the AMA. These are always so much fun. I always enjoy them. And best of luck to everybody building on Cardano. Next month is going to be a crazy month for the Plutus Pioneers, for the firms, and it's going to be a lot of fun turning on the Plutus Pioneers testnet and watching all those apps come live. It's going to be crazy times the next 60 days, and they're going to go so quickly, you won't believe it.